Hey everybody, I'm Dacia Coffey and welcome back to the Marketing Blender Show. Today, we are hitting on kind of a weird one that's been floating around recently, and it's what's the difference between a CEO versus a CSO? So CSO, in this scenario, we are talking about a Chief Strategy Officer. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about what the heck is that? Why do you even need one, or when do you need one? And for those of you guys who do not have the size of organizations that would require this type of in-house leader, how can understanding that role impact your thinking and make you a better strategic planner for your total organization and your resilience? So we're gonna go ahead and dive straight in. So it should be fast and should be a lot of fun. First of all, what is a CEO supposed to do? Well, obviously the CEO steers the direction of the company. Now, for most companies, that includes strategy, as well as culture and vision and all of those. The CEO has total oversight in regards to the rest of the leadership team. So operation, delivery, that type of thing, as well as financials. Now, of course, they lay out the decision-making criteria as well. So the buck stops with them. And I think generally speaking, all of us pretty much understand, loosely speaking, what a CEO is, or a chief executive officer. Now, their highest and best use is not being in the weeds of the business every day. Their highest and best use is leading the leaders, vision casting, confirming and setting the culture and making sure the decision-making criteria is in place to do that, and then thinking strategically about the business, how they hit the goals and how they steward the resources and the growth of the company. And then again, full circle, helping the leaders and the rest of the team to actually be able to make great day-to-day decisions that align with the vision that they have cast for them. So that's what a CEO is. There's also an element of delegation and oversight. I think that's obvious because I kind of covered it, but again, they're leading leaders. So what is a CSO when the CEO is the one that is vision casting and setting the strategic direction for the company? So first of all, let's start with, let's go ahead and dive into what a CSO is. A Chief Strategy Officer obviously owns the strategic direction. So when we're thinking big picture, a CSO is more focused on long-term stewardship and long-term initiatives, not short-term gain, and not how do we hit our number this week, this quarter, or this year, right? So they're less concerned with what's happening now and more concerned with what's coming down the pipeline in the future, both on the opportunity side as well as on the risk side. So specifically, a CSO or Chief Strategy Officer is going to be looking a lot at strategic changes in the market, competitive analysis, technology analysis. Are there disruptions? Are there places that are ripe for disruption? And what's happening in the minds, hearts, and behavioral changes of the humans? Like, what do we see on the horizon? So they're thinking very strategically about what could hurt us and also what could help us beyond where we are right now. So for instance, a CSO might have oversight or might be the tip of the spear in regards to the strategy behind mergers and acquisitions. They might be working very closely and have the lead on the ideation or the decision making around how do we invest in technology. Maybe it's around capacity, and maybe it is a supplement to culture and other changes, especially if the market is really starting to change how employees, what their decision making criteria is, and how do you maintain the capacity of volume to make sure that you've got enough team members in order to hit where we're going in the future.
Hey, Marketing Blender listeners, we have something exciting to share with you.
Our traditional YouTube show and podcast is expanding. We're going to be doing deeper dives on career, technology, innovations, and the stories behind amazing campaigns on our show.
Sometimes we have these conversations that are incredible, amazing. They've got wonderful ideas behind them, but they don't quite fit within our traditional model here on the Blender Show.
Yes, a perfect example of that is career advice. We get a lot of questions about that. We also get a lot of questions about AI and how things are changing and what to expect. And sometimes the best stuff is what we didn't say on camera. So this new evolution is where these moments get their chance to shine.
Think of this as our creative workshop, where we get to explore everything from breaking into the marketing industry to innovative leadership approaches, even interviews with CEOs, but all within the high quality insights you've come to expect from the Blender team.
And the best part, everything's self-contained. Whether it's a single episode on a very specific deep dive, or sometimes we will be even doing mini series, you'll be able to get exactly what you want, when you want, where you want it.
You'll be able to find this as a playlist on all of your favorite platforms, the same place that you already get the Marketing Blender Show.
Oh, and tip, there is going to be some subscriber-only content, so little benefit for you that follow us every week.
So hit that subscribe button, stay tuned, and we'll see you guys soon.
And of course, they are focused on reporting, but it's a lot more analytical, right? So like looking at how do the decisions that we make, like what's happening right now, looking at trend analysis and then trying to read into that and circulating. And I like to think about a CSO as really focusing on resilience, right? So a CEO might be focused, when we're thinking about the 3R methodology, they might be focused on revenue and reputation. A CSO is really going to start owning that resilience component. And again, thinking long term when we're thinking CEO versus CSO. So those are kind of the basics. So let's dive down. So I already mentioned that a chief strategy officer, it's different than hitting your numbers right now. And it really is focused on resilience. But let's be honest, most organizations don't actually need a full-time CSO. So who can fill that role? Well, obviously, the CEO can and should fill that role for smaller organizations with less complexity. Also, the chief marketing officer can fill that role, especially when it comes to market analysis and competitive comparisons and buyer behavior changes. So a CMO can oftentimes hold or collaborate on this strategic advisor, or of course, there can be an external consultant coming in and helping facilitate that strategic vision, that vision casting, or even the risk reduction component and looking out for black swans into the future, if you will. So it can be held in different places, but who really needs one? Businesses that are focused on scale and scaling in different directions, right? So if a business not only is launching more products, but they are now entering new markets and they're doing merger and acquisition, there's a lot of complexity in their growth systems. And having somebody really focusing and analyzing what's happening and then looking for the next opportunity can be incredibly beneficial. And it's too much for the CEO, who needs to set that delegation, the reporting, the stewardship, and the oversight in the day-to-day, and then partner with the CSO in what's coming down the line in the future. Another one is when there's just simply a lot of complexity in the business. So if there are lots of divisions, if there are lots of different locations or ways that the organization as a whole serves the market, and especially if they are divergent from one another. So there's not a lot of overlap or serendipity between those product or service offerings. A CSO can be incredibly beneficial to an organization, drive a lot of return on investment because they have the bandwidth to be able to untangle that spaghetti and see the business holistically and also do deep dive analyses on each of the different business divisions, as well as product offerings and the competitive analysis and the trajectory of those different industries and where that's standing. So current state versus future state. So that's who needs it. But for most of us, and especially for most people watching this podcast, that's not what our organizations look like. So what can we learn from the role of a CSO? Well, the first couple things is that number one, someone needs to own strategy, and we need to clearly define strategic planning and strategic thinking. It's not just for 2025 or 2026 or the next fiscal year. It is about building upon revenue and reputation to build resilience. We are in a time in the world where there has never been a faster pace of change. And so making sure that we are intentionally thinking now, today, and someday is critically important in making sure that we do not accidentally make some very massive decisions that could affect us negatively in the future. So really wanting to make sure that we do that. So the second is, again, that definition of strategy. Strategies are tactics. Strategy, how do we stay vibrant? How do we stay resilient? How do we stay resonant with our target market? Super, super critical. And this needs to be circulated back into the planning, at least on an annual basis. But we do need, when we're thinking analysis and reporting, we need to be thinking about how our differences and changes in the market going to impact, not just assuming that because the rearview mirror had a trajectory, of X, Y, and Z, that is going to continue no matter what, and taking a look at everything from economic factors to potential opportunities or misses, even if there's not a competitor owning that. Are there spaces in the competitive landscape that once filled might be harmful, or that you as your leader should be thinking to fill in the future, and then assigning and aligning the resources that we have. So really that's the summary of that, is whether or not you've got a complex business focused on scale where you need either a fractional CSO or a full-time CSO or even a consultant, someone needs to be thinking ahead of the game, because this world is simply too busy and too loud and full of massive change that, if thought about properly, represents incredible opportunity for you, especially if you have a company that deserves a voice in this world, because you drive impact for change and positivity for us all. So I hope that helped, and I hope I was able to give a little bit of clarity on a phrase and a new C-suite title that's been floating around a lot over there. I look forward to your questions and comments in below. I'll talk to you later. Onward and upward.